These are 10 unexplainable stories that left Joe Rogan completely speechless. Episode number 1169. Elon Musk explains why the odds that we're in base reality are 1 in billions. What if everything you see is programmed?
But ultimately, is it making people happier right now? Most technology, I would say no. In fact, you and I were talking about social media before this, about just not having Instagram on your phone and not dealing, and you feel better.
Yes, I think that one of the issues with social media that's been pointed out by many people is that I think maybe particularly Instagram, people look like they have a much better life than they really do.
Right.
So
by design.
Yeah, people are posting pictures of when they're really happy. They're modifying those pictures to be better looking. Even if they're not modifying the pictures, they're at least selecting the pictures for the best lighting, the best angle. So people basically seem they're way better looking than they basically really are.
Right.
And they're way happier seeming than they really are. So if you look at everyone on Instagram, you might think, man, there are all these happy, beautiful people, and I'm not that good looking, and I'm not happy. So I must suck, and that's going to make people sad. So when in fact, those people you think are super happy, actually not that happy. Some of them are really depressed. They're very sad. Some of the happiest seeming people, actually some of the saddest people in reality. And nobody looks good all the time. It doesn't matter who you are.
No. It's not even something you should want. Why do you want to look great all the time?
Yeah, exactly. So I think things like that can make people quite sad.
Well,
just by comparison, because you just sort of people generally think of themselves relative to others. We are constantly rebaselining our expectations. And you can see this, say, if you watch some show like Naked and Afraid, or, if you just go and try living in the woods by yourself for a while, and you'll learn that civilization is quite great. It has a lot of it. People want to come back to civilization pretty fast on Naked and Afraid.
Wasn't that a Thoreau quote? The comparison is a thief of joy?
Yeah. Well, happiness is reality minus expectations.
That's great, too. But the comparison is a thief of joy really holds true to people. Is it?
Theodore Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. Fascinating. When you're thinking about Instagram, because what essentially Instagram is with a lot of people is you're giving them the opportunity to be their own PR agent. And they always go towards the glamorous, And when anybody does show, hashtag no filter, if they really do that, like, oh, you're so brave. Look at you. No makeup.
Yeah.
They look good anyway. You look great. What are you doing? Oh my God, you don't have makeup on. You still look hot as fuck. You know what you're doing. I know what you're doing too. They're letting you know, and then they're feeding off that comment section. Ooh, just a little sitting there like it's a fresh stream of love. Like you're getting right up to the source as it comes out of the earth, and you're sucking that sweet
lot of emojis.
love water.
Emojis.
Yeah.
A lot of emojis.
My concern is not so much what Instagram is that I didn't think that people had the need for this or the expectation for some sort of technology that allows them to constantly get love and adulation from strangers and comments and this ability to project this sort of distorted version of who you really are. But I worry about where it goes. Like, what's the next one? What's the next one? Like, where is it? Is it going to be augmented? Is some sort of a weird augmented or virtual sort of Instagram type situation where you're not going to want to live in this real world? You're going to want to interface with this sort of world that you've created through your social media page. It's some next level thing.
Go live in the simulation.
Yeah, maybe
in the simulation.
Some Ready Player One type shit that's real. That seems, we have that HTC Vive here, and I've only done it a couple times, quite honestly, because it kind of freaks me out.
Sure.
My kids fucking love it, man. They love it. They love playing these weirdo games and walking around with that headset on. But part of me watching them do it goes, wow, I wonder if this is like the precursor. Just sort of like if you look at that phone that Gordon Gekko had on the beach,
Yes.
And then you compare
big
that.
cell phone.
Yeah, you compare that to like a Galaxy Note 9. Like,
Sure.
how the fuck did that become that, right? And I wonder when I see this
Yes.
HTC Vive, I'm like, what is that thing going to be 10 years from now when we're making fun of what it is now? What is it? How ingrained and how connected and interconnected is this technology going to be in our life?
It will be, at some point, indistinguishable from reality.
Where we'll lose this. We'll lose this. Like, you and I are just looking at each other through our eyes. I see
Are
you,
we?
you see me. I hope.
You think so?
I think you probably have regular eyes.
This could be some simulation.
It could. Do you entertain that?
Well, the argument for the simulation, I think, is quite strong, because if you assume any improvement at all over time, any improvement, 1%, 0.1%, just extend the time frame, make it 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. What would civilization, if you counted, if you're very generous, civilization is maybe 7,000 or 8,000 years old, if you count it from the first writing. This is nothing. This is nothing. So if you assume any rate of improvement at all, then games will be indistinguishable from reality. Or civilization will end. One of those two things will occur. Therefore, we are most likely in a simulation.
Or we're on
'Cause
our
we
way
exist.
to one, right? Well, but just
Since we
because we
exist,
exist, we could most certainly be on the road. We could be on the road to that, right? It doesn't mean that it has to have
We could
already
be in base
happened.
reality. We could be in base reality.
We could be here now on our way to the road or on our way to the destination where this can never happen again, where we are completely ingrained in some sort of an artificial technology or some sort of a symbiotic relationship with the internet or the next level of sharing information. But right now we're not there yet. That's possible too, right? It's possible that a simulation is one day going to be inevitable, that we're going to have something that's indistinguishable from regular reality. But maybe we're not there yet. That's also possible. That we're not
Yes,
quite
it
there
is.
yet. That this is real. When I touch that
It feels
wood,
very real.
maybe that's why everybody's like into like mason jars and shit.
Mason jars.
Suede shoes. People are into like craft restaurants and they want raw wood. Everyone wants to see metal. People, it seems like people are like longing towards some weird log cabin type nostalgia.
Sure. Reality.
Yeah, like holding on, like clinging, just
Sure.
dragging their nails through the mud, like don't take me yet.
Yes.
I want to.
But then people will go get a mason jar with a wine stem or a handle. That's dark. Makes me lose faith in humanity.
Wine stem and a handle. Do they have those?
Yes.
Oh, those dirty people.
Oh,
That's just
terrible.
assholes. That's like people make pet rocks.
Rough.
Right? Some people are just assholes. They take advantage of our generous nature.
It was made with a wine stem, made with a handle.
They made it that way.
Yes.
So it wasn't like they
manufactured
welded
like
it
that.
onto the mason. Ah, you
No, that would
fucks.
be fine if there was, they glued it on or something. But
Right,
it
that
was,
would be
made,
like
it was made that way.
White trash chic. Oh, this is disgusting. Look at
Yes.
this. Here it is
Pretty
right
harsh.
there.
Yep.
This is terrible. Yeah. That's like fake breasts that are designed to be hard, like fake breasts from the 60s. It's like if you really long for the ones with ripples, here we go. Yeah. That's almost what that is.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, man? There's nothing, it's nothing you can do to stop certain terrible ideas from propagating.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to sound like things are too dark, because I think like you kind of have to be optimistic about the future. There's no point in being pessimistic. It's just too negative.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. I think you want to be. My theory is like you'd rather be optimistic. I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right.
Right.
Or at least err on that side.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you're pessimistic, it's going to be miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody wants to be around you anyway. If it's the end of the world, you're like, I fucking told you, bro.
Yeah.
The world's
Exactly.
ending. Yeah. It is what it
might
is
as
for
well
all.
Enjoy the journey.
Right, if you really want to get morose, it is what it is for all of us anyway. We're all going to go, unless some something changes.
Yeah.
I
mean, ultimately, even if we just sort of existed as humans forever, we'd still eventually, that'd be like the heat death of the universe.
Right.
A zillion years from now.
Right. Even if we get it past the sun. If we figure out a way past the sun running out of juice.
Eventually it's going to end. It's just a question of when.
Right.
So it really is all about the journey.
Or transcendence from whatever we are now into something that doesn't worry about death.
The universe as we know it will dissipate into a fine mist of cold nothingness eventually.
And then someone's going to bottle it and put a fragrance to it, sell it to French people in another dimension.
It's just a very long time. So I think it's really just about how can we make it last longer.
Are you a proponent of the multi-universes theory? Do you believe that there are many, many universes and that even if this one fades out, that there's other ones that are starting fresh right now and there's an infinite number of them and they're just constantly in this never-ending cycle of birth and death?
I think most likely, this is just about probability, there are many, many simulations. These simulations we might as well call them reality, or you could call them the multiverse.
These simulations you believe are created? Like someone has manufactured?
They're running on the substrate.
So...
That substrate is probably boring.
Boring?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
Well, when we create a simulation, like a game or a movie, it's a distillation of what's interesting about life. Like it can take a year to shoot an action movie. And then that's all distilled down into 2 or 3 hours. So let me tell you, if you see an action movie being filmed, it's boring. Super boring. There's like lots of takes. Everything's in a green screen. Looks pretty goofy. Doesn't look cool. But once you add the CGI and have great editing, it's amazing. So I think most likely, if we're a simulation, it's really boring outside the simulation. Because why would you make a simulation that's boring? You'd make the simulation way more interesting than base reality.
That is, if this right now is a simulation.
Yes.
And ultimately, inevitably, as long as we don't die or get hit by a meteor, we're going to create some sort of simulation if we continue on the same technological path we're on right now.
Yes.
But we might not be there yet. So it might not be a simulation here. But it most likely is, you feel, other places.
This notion of place or where is a...
Flawed?
Yes.
Flawed
like
perception.
Like
right.
that, if you have this sort of, that Vive, that's made by Valve and Steam, and it's really Valve that made it. HTC did the hardware, but it's really a Valve thing.
Makers of Half-Life.
Yes. Valve, great company.
Great company.
When you're in that virtual reality, which is only going to get better, where are you? Where are you really?
Right.
You aren't anywhere.
Well, whereas
you're in the computer.
What defines where you are?
Exactly.
Right.
It's your perception.
Is it your perceptions, or is it a scale that we have under your butt? You're right here. I've measured you. You're the same weight as you were when you left. But meanwhile, your experience is
radically
different.
Why do you think you're where you are right now? You might not be.
I'll spark up a joint if you keep talking. Your manager's going to come in here. We might have to lock the door.
Right now, you think you're in a studio in L.A.
That's what I heard.
You might be in a computer.
Oh, listen, man. I think about this all the time. Yeah, I mean, it's unquestionable that one day that'll be the case. As long as we keep going. As long as nothing interrupts us. And if we start from scratch and, we're single-celled organisms all over again, and then millions and millions of years later we become the next thing that is us with creativity and the ability to change its environment, it's going to keep monkeying with things until it figures out a way to change reality. To change, to almost like punch a hole through what is this thing into what it wants it to be and create new things. And then those new things will intersect with other people's new things. And then it'll be this ultimate pathway of infinite ideas and expression all through technology.
Yeah.
And then we're going to wonder, like, why are we here? What are we doing?
Let's find out.
Well,
I mean, I think we should take the set of actions that are most likely to make the future better.
yes. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then reevaluate those actions to make sure that it's true.
Well,
From JRE number 1035, mycologist Paul Stamets describes a psilocybin trip so intense he's convinced he briefly slipped into the multiverse.
But if you look at the multiverse, and I've had one or two in particular multiverse experiences where time and reality has changed in a way that I cannot explain. It's
how so? What do you mean?
It's so incredibly profound that I still cannot wrap my mind around it. And
These are psilocybin experiences?
psilocybin experience. So I think the psilocybin experience might be one portal, and now I'm going to sound like Terrence McKenna, of entering into the multiverse. The idea that time can be bent, that there are multiple universes occurring simultaneously in different realities. And I've had one experience in particular that is just unfathomable to me. I don't know how to explain it.
Give it a shot.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. And
You've already blown my mind apart 150 times today.
this is a very deeply personal experience to me, but I was going to the Evergreen State College. I had the Drug Enforcement Administration license. My brother John went to Yale University. He got a graduate scholarship in neurophysiology at the University of Washington. He came out to Washington State in Seattle. I was living in Olympia, Washington. I had a cabin up in the mountains near Darrington, Washington. Then the summertime for 3 years, I set chokers. I was a logger. I really believe in the school of hard knocks and the blending of academia with blue-collar hard work. I love chopping wood. I love running a chainsaw. I love hard labor. I think. It gives my mind some respite to be able to think. So I'm in this highly academic environment. My brother John he died unfortunately 2 years ago. He got me involved in mushrooms. So I'm going to segue and set the stage here, but I need another 2 minutes to set the stage here. So I'm growing up in a small town in Ohio called Columbiana. My brother John is going to Yale. He comes back one day, and he gives me a book that he's using for his class, but he's on break. And he says, and I'm really fascinated. Now, John went to Mexico, Colombia, came back with great stories of eating psilocybin mushrooms, and he's my older brother. I just idolized him. And he has a book called Altered States of Consciousness. And so I said, John, can I borrow your book? He said, sure. And I said, but Paul, I need it back. After my break is over, I'm going back to college. This is part of our textbook. So I borrowed his book, Altered States of Consciousness, and I'm just fascinated reading it, about all these different ways of expanding your consciousness. I'm 14 years of age. And so my best friend, Ryan Snyder, says, Paul, can I borrow your book? We're hanging together all the time. And I go, yeah, but I need it back. And so he borrows my book, and he doesn't return it. A day, several days pass, a week pass, 2 weeks pass. My brother's coming back on break. He said, I needed that book back, Paul. And I go to Ryan. I go, Ryan, I need my book. And Ryan just kept on avoiding answering the subject. And so I said, finally, give me my book. And Ryan goes, I can't give it to you, Paul. I said, why? He says, my dad burned it. I said, your dad burned my brother's book? I go, WTF. I didn't use this phrase back then. I said, oh my God. And I have a shout out to Ryan Snyder's father that because of that event, it stimulated my interest in altered states of consciousness even more. So so John goes to Yale and goes to the University of Washington. I have this DEA permit. I'm at the Evergreen State College. John calls me up. And he says, Paul, I think I found some psilocybin mushrooms. John said, you're really smart. You've been collecting Psilocybe cubensis in Colombia and Mexico, but they're much more complicated up here. And I said, let me ask you a few questions. I said, okay, John, do you take a spore print? And he goes, yes. And I go, is the spores purple-brown? And he goes, yes, they are purple-brown. I go, good. Okay. John, does it have a separable gelatinous pellicle? And he goes, what's that? And I go, well, break the cap. These are growing on wood chips. Break the cap and separate the cap very slowly. Do you see a little skin that's translucent? And he breaks it and he goes, yeah, I see that skin. I said, John, they're growing in wood chips. And he goes, yes. I go, are they turning bluish? He goes, yes, they're staying really bright blue. I go, wow. I said, John, how many did you find? He goes, you would not believe it. It's a huge amount. I said, wait. I said, but he said, Paul, they're in a very sensitive place. You better come up here right away. So I jumped in my car and I drove up from Olympia to Seattle, about 60, 70 miles. I get to his house, and John's there, and I go, well, where are we going? He goes, well, we need some grocery bags, and let's get on our bikes, and let's go down there. I go, well, why all the secrecy? And the problem is, well, you'll see. And it was the end of Boat Street, and right at the University of Washington, right off of University Avenue, there's Boat Street, and we get there, and right across the street is a police substation. So we're there, and it was an eruption of this mushroom. There had to be 10,000, 30,000 mushrooms, I don't know. It was about 50 feet by 30 feet, with all been mulched with wood chips. There was an eruption that picked up, trash and, debris that picked up 6 inches. It was solid mushrooms. There are mushrooms everywhere. I've, to this day, never seen so many mushrooms in one concentrated area. So we waited till the police cars went away, and we're kind of idling there. And then the police cars would go away, and from the substation, we'd start picking mushroom, and we fill up a groceries bag or two. And then the other students are walking by. What are you doing? Oh, nothing. And then we eventually go, yeah, there's plenty for everybody. So. So it was like pretty soon everyone's just all hanging out as a little group, like at the bus stop, right? We're not really waiting for the bus, right? We're waiting for the police cars to go away.
Right. And
then we picked all these mushrooms. And so we got about 8 or 10 grocery bags full of these mushrooms.
How bizarre.
It turned out to be a new species called Psilocybe stuntzii, named after
a new species.
It's new species.
New as in hadn't been discovered before.
Had
you
never
guys
been described in
them?
the scientific literature before.
So you picked a mushroom that no one knew existed before, hadn't been
described scientifically. We had known about it for about 3 years, but this is the largest eruption, and from that collection became part of of the type collection that anchored the species taxonomically. So I think some of the specimens still exist in herbaria around the world because it's the reference standard. So we go back to the house, and it's like, we got to dry them. So we lay out newspapers, and the whole newspapers were just covered with mushrooms. And so that night, we just, about 4 guys from Yale, all neurophysiology, all scientists, on the scientist track, and let's eat them. And so, I mean, this is not very potent. They're 1/10 the potency of cubensis, so we made smoothies. And oh my gosh, talk about the gag reflex. So we had to make these smoothies. I had to eat 50 of them in order to have a dose equivalent to what Psilocybe cubensis would be. So I knew that. So we made these incredibly distasteful milkshakes, and we chugged them and we drank them. And then amazing experience. I bonded with my brother. It was beautiful. And then you're peeking at this experience. You look around, and there's like tens of thousands of these mushrooms. Like, oh my gosh, all for science. And so I go to bed, and I'm laying in bed, and full blown experience, and can barely sleep because all the colors are keeping me awake, and my mind is racing. And then I have a lucid dream. And I'm dreaming, and I wake up, and I go downstairs, and I go, I had this crazy dream. I said, and what's your dream? And I said, I saw thousands of cattle dead, baking in the sun. I said, I think there's going to be a nuclear war. But what could kill all these cattle? There's a time the Reagan administration and all that, and the tension was really high between the Soviet Union and the United States. And they said, and they were joking with me, saying, "Oh, well, okay, when is it going to happen?" I go, "I know. I was in Olympia, and I needed to rush up to Darrington to stay in my cabin because my books were up there, and my manuscript was up there. I need to save my research." So they laughed, and they said, "Well, when's the world going to end, Paul?" And I go, "Well, it's not this weekend. That was like in 2 days. It's next weekend." So they wrote on the calendar, December 1st. I put it in my book. I think it's 1975. The end of the world. They wrote, Paul predicts the end of the world. So we forgot about it. Massive rains the next week. Huge amounts of snowfall. And then on Wednesday, Thursday, temperature inversion. And it flipped to 75 to 85 degrees. All the snow started to melt. all the rivers were flooding, and my little cabin was right next to this river that would swell from from morning to night. It would go up 6 feet just from the snow melt, because it's very close to this volcano and big glaciers. I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my manuscript, all my research. I need to get up there. And so I'm watching the news, and the roads are being closed. So I had to go through Rockport, Washington, the back way in order to get back to my cabin. I get to my cabin, and the bank had eroded about 10 feet. I was only about 10, 12 feet away from the river now. My cabin was on the verge of falling into it, but I got my manuscript. I got all my books. I rescued all the material I had, but I couldn't get out of there because the roads had been closed. And so I had to wait 2 days, and the roads then opened up, and I drove out of the valley into the Snohomish Valley, and I went around the bend, and there the sun, it was a brilliant sunny day, a warm day, and there floating in the fields were hundreds and hundreds of dead cattle.
Whoa.
How do you explain that? I entered, I think, into the multiverse.
Whoa. Now, as a scientist, you realize when you say something like that, you open yourself up to ridicule. Do you feel hesitant to communicate these ideas?
Well, to a degree, yes. But, I'm 62 years of age, and, at one point, I just don't care. I just don't care. This is true. This happened to me. And I can push the envelope on these ideas because the credibility of my research is well established. I can save the bees. Do you care whether I have taken psilocybin mushrooms, if I can save your farm, your family, your country, or the world billions of dollars and protect biosecurity?
I care more.
I care more. That's right. Yeah. So I'm telling you things. I'm not making these up.
I don't think you are.
I don't have to.
I just wondered.
But just because you can't explain it does not mean it's not true.
Right.
And I think that we need to accept the fact that the reality is not limited to the perception that we have traditionally used.
Episode 1233, Brian Cox blows Joe Rogan's mind with the terrifying reality of black holes.
There's a supermassive black hole at the center of every galaxy.
Yeah.
But there's also other black holes that aren't necessarily in the center of galaxies.
Yeah, so these little ones, little. They're a few times the mass of the sun, and they're from collapsed stars. So they are stars at the end of their life, very bigger than the sun, more massive than the sun, but they run out of their fuel and they start to collapse because gravity squashes them. And if they're sufficiently massive, then there's nothing that can stop the collapse. And so they collapse, as far as we know, to a point, right? Essentially an infinitely dense point. We don't really know what happens we don't know what happens right in the middle. But they collapse to such an extent that there's a region around it from which light can't escape. And so nothing can escape. And that's a black hole.
And what happens to them? Do they travel? Are they moving through space?
Yeah, they're still stars,
right?
So they're still there. They're surrounded this region where if you fall in, it's called the event horizon, and if you go across that horizon, then you are going to the center. There's one way of thinking about it, which is quite cool, which is that the time and space sort of flip is one way to think about it. So in the same way that we are going into the future now. So we're going to tomorrow. There's nothing we can do about it. We are going to tomorrow. In the same way, if you fall in across the event horizon of a black hole, you are going to the middle, the singularity it's called. So that's your future. Every line of your future points to the center of the black hole. So it's kind of the ultimate of no escape, the ultimate prison. You're going to get squashed to an infinitely dense point.
Not every star becomes a black hole at the end of its life?
No, because if something like the sun,
we have a small star.
It's quite small, yeah. And when it collapses, there's a sort of a pressure, a force, if you like, which is caused by the fact that electrons don't like to be very close to each other. So it's called the Pauli exclusion principle. But essentially what happens is that, so as they get squashed closer and closer together, they move faster and faster to sort of get out of each other's way, if you like. And that makes a force which holds them up. And so that creates what's called a white dwarf star. So you can have a blob of matter. They're about the size of the Earth, but they're about the mass of the sun. And so that's for smaller stars. They end up as these white dwarf things, which are very dense objects. There's another version, which is called a neutron star, which is the same thing, but for neutrons, and they move faster and faster. So if it's massive enough that it overwhelms the electron thing, then the electrons sort of crush into protons and turn into neutrons, and the whole thing starts again. And so a neutron star can be, at least 1.5 times the mass of the sun, let's say, but it can be about 10 miles across. So that's an incredibly dense ball of matter held up by the neutrons moving around. It's got a fancy name. It's called neutron degeneracy pressure, but that's what it is. But if you go even bigger, then even that can't hold it up. And as far as we know, then there's no known force that we know of that can hold the thing up if it's too massive. And so that's when it just almost winks out of existence, if you like. It collapses and collapses and collapses. And that's when you get a black hole.
We try to put that into perspective. The sun is 1,000,000 times bigger than the Earth.
Yeah.
And this neutron star is, would you say, 1.5 times the mass of the sun,
so
but 10 miles wide?
Yeah. So, and there's loads of those around. They're called pulsars. So we see those all over the place. The first one that was discovered was called LGM1 because they spin very fast. And it was called LGM1 because it's a very regular pulse, and they thought it was little green men. So they called it kind of jokingly Little Green Men 1. And so, yeah, we've seen that there's one called the Crab Pulsar, which is in the Crab Nebula, which we saw the supernova explosion. So that's when one of these stars explodes at the end of its life and then collapses to form a neutron star. And we saw that in 1054 AD.
Wasn't there some speculation that our solar system at one point was a binary star system, and that one of those stars had become a dwarf?
I don't know.
Someone had read something about that in relationship to the dense object they believe is outside the Kuiper Belt.
Yeah, I mean, there's some evidence. There's a bit of evidence that there's something out there.
Yeah.
Because of the periodic extinctions and things on Earth, like you get periodic bombardments from out in the Kuiper Belt. So yeah, I think one of the theories is
periodic extinctions.
Well, yeah. So for example, like there have been mass extinctions on Earth when a lot of the life died, and we don't know what caused all those, but sometimes they're impacts from space. That seems clear. And so, yeah, there are theories that there's something orbiting out there which can disrupt all these objects out in the Kuiper Belt that sends loads of comets and asteroids inwards to the inner solar system and can cause havoc. And so there's some people look at those theories.
From JRE number 1428 with Brian Greene, Joe asks the ultimate creepy question, what was happening before the Big Bang? And Brian's answer involves time having a first moment and infinite other universes.
Here's the thing that I've always wanted to ask someone like you. What do you think was happening before the Big Bang?
Yeah, it's a deep question and a subtle one. And there's sort of two ways that I like to think about that question. One is it could be that the Big Bang was an interesting event, but not the first event in the totality of reality. It could have been the first event that sparked the expansion of our part of space. But it could be that there's a grander realm of space within which we sit as a small part, and that grander realm may have been here for a far longer period of time. It may have experienced its own big bangs, maybe a collection of big bangs that may extend infinitely far into the past. So it could be that the answer to the question of what happened before the Big Bang is a lot of other Big Bangs or a lot of other quantum events that were taking place in a larger landscape of reality than we have direct access to. However, another answer is that the very question may not make as much sense as the words seem to suggest. We know how to parse that sentence. We know what it means to talk about the moment before the Big Bang because we know how to talk about the moment before your birth or the moment before the Civil War or the moment before any event that happened in the world. We fully understand the meaning of that kind of sentence. But it could be that when it comes to the Big Bang, the sentence actually doesn't mean anything. It could be that the Big Bang was the place where time itself started. And Hawking himself had a wonderful analogy to get this across. He said, look, I'll dress it up a little bit. Imagine you're walking on planet Earth and you pass by someone. You say, hey, can you point me in the direction of north? I want to walk in the northward direction. They point you, continue to walk. You pass by somebody else, say, hey, which way is further north? And they point you in that direction. But when you get to the North Pole and talk to somebody there and say, hey, how do I go further north? They look at you and say, whoa, that question doesn't mean anything because this is where north begins. There's no notion of going further north than the North Pole. And it could be that that spatial metaphor applies to time. Talk about 1 billion years ago or 10 billion years ago, but if you go to 13.8 billion years ago, the Big Bang, that may be where time started. And you can't go further back in time than the very origin of time itself.
That freaks me out.
Yeah.
See, that's one that it gets in your head and you go, what do you mean beginning of time?
Yeah.
Why would time have a beginning?
Good. And it could be that time is an emergent quality of reality. I give you an analogy, boy. What I mean by that is we all know what temperature means intuitively. Something's hot, you feel it. Something's cold, you feel it. Your body understands those concepts. What physics has done is it's gone deeper into the concept of temperature and revealed that it is nothing but the average motion of the particles making up the environment. So if the molecules are moving really quickly, you've got a hot environment. If the molecules are really moving slowly, it's a cold environment. So temperature emerges from the motion of particles. So if you have like one particle, you can't really talk about it being hot or cold because you need a conglomerate. You need an agglomeration of particles to be able to talk about their average motion. And in that sense, temperature is this emergent idea that rests upon more fundamental ideas, the molecules and atoms that make up reality. Maybe that's true of time. Maybe time as we know it is a property that only makes sense in certain environments when there's enough stuff arranged in the right patterns. But fundamentally, maybe there are atoms or molecules of time which, when not arranged in the form that we are familiar with, don't yield time as we know it. Time itself may be a quality of the world that exists here in this environment, but doesn't even apply in other environments that are configured radically differently.
Whoa. That's a heavy one.
Yeah.
That's a heavy one. What also is a heavy one is what caused the Big Bang?
Yeah.
Like, why would something smaller than the head of a pin become everything that we see in the cosmos?
Yeah. So there are ideas for the answer to that question. Look, all of this is tentative because it's very hard to do measurements that go all the way back to the beginning. We have astronomical observations that we need to be sure are compatible with the predictions of our theories and so forth. So we as good scientists do what needs to be done to try to test these ideas. But the idea that I think most physicists or cosmologists buy into at the moment is that gravity can have two manifestations. The usual form of gravity that you and I know about is the attractive version. You drop something toward the Earth and it moves downward because the Earth and the object pull on each other. That's the ordinary gravity that we experience every day of our lives. But Einstein's equations actually allow gravity to also be repulsive. It can push outward as opposed to just pulling inward. And this is something that we have never experienced because the gravity created by a rocky object like the Earth is always the attractive variety. The gravity created by the sun, again, a compact object, is always the attractive variety. But Einstein's math shows that if you don't have a rocky object that's isolated in space, but rather energy that is uniformly spread through a region of space, that kind of entity yields repulsive gravity. Why is that important to your question? If the very early universe, that little tiny head of a pin that you're talking about, if it was filled with a uniform bath of this energy, we call it the inflaton field, the name doesn't matter, but if it was filled with that energy, it would have been subject to repulsive gravity. What does repulsive gravity do? Pushes everything apart, causes everything to rush outward. So the bang of the Big Bang may have been a spark of repulsive gravity operating with a tiny region of space that pushed everything apart.
And this concept of repulsive gravity is just theoretical? Have we observed any sort of element in the universe that...
It is theoretical, but it's at a level of understanding that I think most physicists would say causes it to migrate into the camp of established understanding of how gravity works. So number one, Einstein's equations have now been tested over and over again in a whole variety of circumstances. The detection of gravitational waves just a couple of years ago is like the crowning triumph of Einstein's math. 100 years ago, the math says there should be ripples in the fabric of space. 100 years later, we finally detect ripples in the fabric of space. So we are very comfortable with any prediction that comes out of Einstein's mathematics. And right in the mathematics is the prediction of what I was just describing. You've got uniform energy in a region, repulsive gravity. The other thing is we currently witness that the expansion of the universe is speeding up, not slowing down. Since the 1920s, everybody thought that, yes, the universe is expanding, but it will slow down over time. Why? Because gravity pulls things back together. You throw an apple upward, it doesn't go up faster and faster. It goes up slower and slower because the Earth's gravity pulls it back. Everybody thought that would apply to the universe as a whole. It's expanding, but expanding ever slower. The observations in 1998, culminated in 1998, which won the 2011 Nobel Prize, showed that the distant galaxies are moving away ever more quickly. The expansion of space is speeding up over time. It's accelerating. How do we explain that? The best explanation we currently have is repulsive gravity. We believe even today the universe is suffused with a bath of energy. We call it dark energy. We believe it's uniformly going through space. I like to think of it almost like as a Turkish sauna. It's like the steam filling the sauna, this energy filling space. And that repulsive gravity, we believe, is responsible for the observations that the distant galaxies are rushing away faster and faster over time. So it's circumstantial, but the case for repulsive gravity is quite strong.
And what would have caused it to coalesce? What would have caused it to compress initially? Like, why would all that matter? Be in this tiny, less than a pin-sized object?
So I have no idea. And nobody else on planet Earth has any real idea but we do have theories. And one of the theories suggests that in the very early universe, it was a highly chaotic environment, very hot, with all the fields fluctuating wildly up and down. And the idea would be that if you wait long enough, where it's hard to know what wait means in this environment, but don't press me on my definition of time back then, just sort of intuitively. If you wait long enough, on rare occasions, the energy will just happen to flatten out in a region, become uniform, and then that region explosively inflates, grows large. So, imagine you're looking at a pot of boiling water. The surface is, of course, wildly undulating up and down. But if you wait long enough, very long time, since you've never seen it, neither have I, there will be a little patch on the surface of that boiling water that flattens out. Why? That only means that the water molecules happen for an instant to be moving in just the right way to keep that little patch of water from wildly bubbling. It will happen. It's rare, but if you wait long enough, it will occur. Similarly, the widely undulating fields in the early universe, if you wait long enough, a patch will flatten out. You get the uniform energy. Plug it into Einstein's equations, that region explosively inflates. And I mean explosively. It can go from a size that's much less than an atomic diameter to larger than the observable universe in far less than a blink of an eye, in 10 to the minus 30, 10 to the minus 35 seconds. That's how powerful repulsive gravity can be.
That is so baffling.
Yeah.
So before this happens, you just have, in this theory, you just have all of this energy sort of randomly interacting with other energy in the universe with no physical objects.
Yep. It's
and
just
that could have been forever.
That could, and in fact, that's the main point. There's nobody who is hanging around looking at their watch saying, good God, when is this Big Bang going to finally happen? So you can have this cosmological pre-show. You can have it last as long as you like. The only thing that you need to happen is that sooner or later, a region flattens out, and then the cosmological show begins.
And if we're looking at this model of the universe being this infinite universes with different characteristics and different qualities to them, this could be happening throughout infinity, all over the place.
Yeah, and in fact, this so-called inflationary cosmology is the technical name for the subject, says that. it says that it's quite likely that this explosive inflation of the region that we currently inhabit, it was just one of many such events. And therefore, there are other far-flung regions throughout this larger cosmological landscape where things have also inflated, but the details can be different. The physical details can differ from what we are familiar with. And the differences can be small, temperature differences in one part of space versus another, or they can be far more significant. Even the particles that make up that other realm may be different from the particles that make up our realm. Their masses can be different. Their charges can be different. Their fundamental physical features can be different. So out there in that wider cosmological landscape, it can be the wild, wild west of realities.
And they don't have to worry about proton deterioration.
There may be realms in which they don't have to worry about protons falling apart. The really crazy idea is that if you're very careful mathematically in analyzing these theories, you realize that there have to be realms out there that duplicate ours as well. Many can be different, but there have to be versions of this reality that are also instantiated, occur out there in other realms. So you come to these crazy sounding, sci-fi sounding ideas that you and I are having this conversation out there in other distant realms.
An infinite number of times.
Perhaps infinite number of times. And moreover, small differences can also arise in these other realms where maybe our positions are interchanged at the table, or, maybe your name is, Joe Green and I'm Brian Rogan, or there's like strange realities that can be taking place. And this is not an overworked theorist's imagination. This is the careful, dispassionate analysis of the mathematical equations. Now, I should say there are some physicists who see this implication and say, whoa, you guys have fallen off the deep end. Your theory has imploded because any theory that predicts that kind of a wealth of realities that are kind of untestable because they're so far away that we will never interact with them, that's the kind of theory that we have been trained to avoid, to excise. However, the more forward thinking I like to describe us, physicists say, hey, math has proven to be a very valuable guide over the course of hundreds of years. And if this is where the math is taking us, it's at least worthy of our attention to investigate it fully and possibly come to the conclusion that this is how reality actually behaves.
Jesus.
From JRE number 1351 with Dan Aykroyd, Joe dives into cursed crystal skulls, alien abductions, and UFO files the Smithsonian wants you to forget.
I want to talk to you about the story of the crystal skulls themselves, because there's this strange sort of folklore attached to them, and then there's a lot of people that believe that it's all horseshit and that these were created by modern people and buried underground in order to...
Well, my understanding of it is, there you go.
Sure,
yeah, indeed. That's just the citrus model, the crystal driver. There were 13 heads, and it was purported that the Navajo, the Anasazi, the Mayans, the Aztec each had one. The most famous one is the Mitchell Hedges skull, which was found in the Yucatan by Anna Mitchell Hedges. She reached into a cave. She was with her grandfather, and it was around 1926, and she reached in, and there was an oilcloth covered item in there, and she pulled it out and opened it up, and there was the two-piece detachable jaw Mitchell Hedges skull. Beautiful skull. The Hewlett-Packard engineers did a test on it in the 60s. They said it could not have been carved by a lapidary, by tools. It had to have been polished over hundreds of years, over centuries, to get to the shape that it was. So they said it was a polished item. Let's see. There's the Mitchell Hedges skull, the Phyllis Newman skull named Max. She says,
wasn't that later decided by some people that this was not the case?
I'm gonna exactly get to that point, because of course it's important. It doesn't affect my business whether they're fake or not. These were beautiful artifacts, and we've recreated it beautifully. But it's nice to know the true story, and I have a kind of a thought on the theory either way. So there's the Phyllis Newman skull named Max. She has to put it in the closet because it talks to her. There's one.
Wait. Hit the brakes. I'm going to have to hit the brakes a bunch with you. You're an excellent talker, sir.
Oh, well, I was inoculated with a gramophone needle at birth. I could talk a taxi dispatcher into a vow of silence. I could talk an air raid siren to scrap. But
and you're obviously Canadian because you said slag.
Yeah, there you go.
I used to date a Canadian gal. She loved that term.
Oh, Well, that's another tangent. Canadian gals and Canadian guys. So the Philip Newman skull, she got it. Its name is Mac. She has to put it in the closet because it talks to her, she said. So there's the Mitchell Hedges.
She still has it?
Yes, she does. Phyllis has that one. Then there's the Mitchell Hedges skull that's in Indiana. The man that took care of Anna at the end of her life eventually had it and got it. It sat in Grafton, Ontario for many years, and I never saw it, but people said when they walked into the room and she uncovered it with the cloth she kept it in, that there was an immediate feeling of well-being and healing coming over to look at the original Mitchell Hedges skull. There's one in Mexico City. It's one of our minis. It's got a cross stuck right in the top of it, which is, that would shatter a crystal if you did that. How that cross got there, I don't know. There's one at the Smithsonian in Washington, and two at the Smithsonian, Washington, D.C., and one at the Victoria and Albert Museum. So there's supposed to be 8 that we have and 5 that we're missing. The woman at the Smithsonian who has the 2 there, I think they're a cloudy orange one and a cloudy green one, and they're smaller. She says they're all fakes, that they were carved by a German lapidary in the 1800s and that he seeded them around the world. Well, wait a minute. I think one was found in Tibet. One was found in Ohio, we're hearing, at the Serpent Mounds.
Why does she think this one gentleman did it?
Because he was an expert lapidary. He had the tools to do it, and she figures... Her theory is that they're not artifacts polished by tribal hands and passed down, that they're all fakes. But it's just, wait a minute, he would have had to have had an airship to go and deposit these wherever they might be around the world. You can get the pictures of the skulls up, the Smithsonian crystal heads, and the Smithsonian crystal heads you can get in Victoria Albert crystal head.
Do they all have the same similar type of markings?
There's theirs. Yes, they do. They all have the same. Now, you see, some of them are more are clearer. See, there's one at the British Museum. And there's some that are clearer and are more beautiful, and there's some that are rougher, like that one there, and the green and the orange one. But she says all fakes. But if they're all fakes, how did they get to these different places around the world, and how were they found?
Well, here's the thing. But why fake? The word fake is very strange, because it's like they are certainly real carved crystal skulls.
But were they real from tribal ancestry?
Right.
That's the question.
Who made them is the question.
Who made them?
From modern Western
and
people?
And how? Were they polished or were they carved? That's the thing. Aren't they beautiful? Oh, God.
What do the indigenous people say? They say they found them?
The Navajo say they came from the Star Children, that they were brought down and deposited and given to them as crystal ball devices, scrying devices too.
What's that one down there, Jamie? Keep scrolling where you were.
The green is beautiful.
The one on the left right there that looks almost like a real skull. Oh, it is a real skull.
Yeah, no, the green is beautiful. So I guess, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a professional historian. I guess I have to trust the lady at the Smithsonian, but then I question, they were found at different times in history around the world. How do you go and seed? How do you deposit them there?
Why does she believe that? Has she given a coherent reason why she thinks that they're all hoaxes?
I guess she's done her analysis, whatever they've done, to their skulls. But again, the Hewlett-Packard engineers took that Mitchell Hedges skull and they said this have not been polished. It would have been cracked or destroyed. It could not have been built by tools. It would have been cracked or destroyed. It had to have been polished. Yeah.
So, but what about some sort of a very fast-moving drill with a diamond bit on it that can slowly grind down?
Well, that would be marks that would be visible under the scanner.
Couldn't you polish those marks down?
I think that the intensity of the Hewlett-Packard scrutiny revealed that there were none of those marks, and that's why they were able to make their claim.
Here's the problem with this: is like you want them to be real, right? Don't you?
Oh yeah, I love the legend.
I do too. I do too. But I don't trust me.
No, neither do I.
So
that's why I say openly.
When you're saying all these things, I want to believe you. I want them to be from the sky people.
Mm-hmm. I do too, but again, you've got a professional in Washington at our National Museum there who says no, they're not.
Yeah, but what does she know?
Well, we could.
She might be one of them party poopers.
Get her on the phone.
She might be a party pooper.
I think that she's probably as in love with the skulls, even though they are, not polished in her mind. I bet she loves them as much as we do.
But the thing is, if you are a professional intellectual or someone who's a curator of fine artwork and ancient relics, you kind of have to be one of those people that dismisses anything preposterous. Because if not,
That's right, like Neil Tyson. Don't you love him?
Yes, I love him to death.
I love Neil.
I love him
but
to death.
there's no way you can sit down and say, Neil, Barney and Betty Hill were abducted by a flying saucer in 1957. He's not going to accept
Right. He's
that.
not
Because he can't accept that. Because everything in his training, everything in his knowledge, everything that he knows about physics and science and propulsion in the universe and how to get from place to place defies defies the legend, or I would say defies the theory that there are extraterrestrial advanced ships out there. He can't accept it. It's just, it would be unprofessional for him to say, okay, there's even a possibility that there were abductions. But
the Betty and Barney Hill story is very interesting, but there's no real evidence other than their testimony. Is that correct?
Well, there was a stain on Betty's dress. There's her excellent recall. He was unconscious.
What was the stain on her dress that's so interesting to you?
It was a fluid that they used in the testing, that some kind of a fluid,
The
a chemical.
alien testing?
That they did when they drew ova from her and they drew sperm. From him. Now, so there's a book out called Contact by Stanton Friedman.
I read that.
And Kathleen, I'd love to know where the car is. Where the Chevy they were driving.
Oh,
where
it disappeared?
is that? I don't know. I'd have to ask Kathleen where it is. Did it end up in a junkyard? Because there were marks on the back of the car as well. There were trace evidence in the back of the car. You know, Ted Phillips is. He goes around the world collecting trace evidence and radioactive signatures from sightings and landings. On the back of the car, there was a couple of marks, but it was Betty's. It's their credibility. Why would they want to bring this into their lives? And she was conscious. Semi-conscious through much of it, and Barney was not conscious. He was unconscious. If you hear the tapes of Ben Simon's interviews with them under hypnosis, the screaming and he was just so frightened.
Yeah.
And the Zeta Reticuli map, when the being Betty looked at the map and the being showed her a map as she was on her way out the door, and she said, "May I take this?" And the being was going to give it to her, but then another one zipped up and said, "No. You can't have this."
Zeta Reticuli is exactly the same place where Bob Lazar says they found those with the spaceships that they have at Area or S4.
Well, the Little Grays, Zeta Reticuli, Barney and Betty's abduction. You had Marjorie Fish, an amateur astronomer. She took the memory of Betty's. Betty drew up the star map, and she did a three-dimensional scale model of that part of the universe, and was able to identify Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 and accepted by astronomers. So that map that Betty saw aboard that ship had not been seen on Earth before.
And Betty has history of astronomy, no studying.
No, none of it at all. And interesting things like when they got back to the house, the house was open and the keys to the house were on the table with leaves, so that they might have dropped them at the site and the beings returned them. Now, you know who Bud Hopkins was?
Yes.
He said that since he studied the Linda Cortile case, where the woman was floated out of her apartment building over the East River, and Orange Orb picked her up, plunged into the river.
Was. He was the guy.
Bud was an artist. He was a graphic artist. He was a designer, a painter, and a lovely man. And he was one of the first people to start to deal with the trauma of abductees. He got a reputation for being able to interview them, hypnotize them, interview them, and get their stories and empathize and sympathize with them. And he said that in some cases that he studied, the beings would grab a man from somewhere in America and grab a woman and out of their cars, out of their clothes, put them up, test them, draw ova, draw sperm, fluids, whatever they were doing. And then the woman would wake up in the man's shoes or a different car, or almost as if the beings were finished with them. I don't care where they go now. Yeah, I put them back, that kind of thing. He said that was the oddest phenomena.
Like releasing a trout.
Yeah, that's right.
If
well,
you
I think that's
catch a trout, you catch a big rainbow trout and you're fly fishing, and you got a barbless hook. Most people, if you go to Montana, go to the Gallatin River, shout out to the Gallatin.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous place. People catch and release because they appreciate that the trout are there. They'd rather go buy halibut from a store and not eat the fish because they want the salmon to be healthy. They want the trout to be healthy.
Well,
so they catch them. And then they release them. But if you're a brown trout, well, brown trout are invasive. But if you're a rainbow trout, and someone catches you, and they take you on some 200-yard run down this river as they're trying to draw you in. It's a big 9-pound rainbow, catch of a lifetime,
Beautiful
right?
time.
And some guy pulls it on, takes pictures of it, shows it, and then releases it. And then this thing's like, how the fuck did I get here? What am I doing outside of my universe?
Yeah.
What am I doing in this other dimension of air where I can't breathe? breathe.
Precisely. Yeah, and that's that's catch and release.
Catch and release with people.
Travis Walton says, you got to think of them as just people from over there. They're just
he's
people
the
from
guy
over
the
there.
Fire in the Sky movie was based on. He's got another interesting story. Here's what I want people
credibility
to think.
there, and credibility with Barney and Betty. I just don't think they're lying, and I don't think the Ariel school children are lying.
I don't want to think they're lying. This is the problem that I have with it. I want to believe them, but this is what I want people to consider, because most people that are pragmatic, reasonable people that don't want to be ridiculed, they look at these stories and they go, "Oh, come on, people are full of shit," and I've been there too. But I want people to imagine that if aliens did occasionally visit Earth, how often do you think this would take place? And how it would be very infrequently. And if it was happening, these would be completely unique, unusual occurrences out of nowhere, where someone would come down, they would do something, and they would be leaving the person with this thought and this memory and this inability to describe it with normal words. If you were taken aboard a spaceship and you were some reptilian beings that were 3 feet tall, were running experiments on you, and you were paralyzed, and then they released you back on Earth, what words do you have available to you to describe this experience in a way that, like, if you tell me, "Hey, Joe, I went whitewater rafting with my kids. It was a great time. It was so fun. We got to see eagles, and it was gorgeous. And then we had lunch at this beautiful little cafe. What a great day!" I can envision this experience. I can see it. But if you tell me, "Hey, man, we went camping, and I woke up, and some alien had a finger in my ass,"
the Allagash incident, they went camping and they disappeared.
Quite a few of those, right?
There's hundreds of thousands. And here, I brought you a book. This is Bruce Maccabee's book. It's all the headlines from 1952, 432 reports given. And I'll address your specific question about people, how they relate their experiences and how genuine they feel in a second here. 432 reports given the Air Force in 1952 on aerial sightings, ships from other planet. We've got memos from the government here. Former Army pilots sees flying saucer by daylight, whatever was cited here. July 30 stories, fighter pilots at Newcastle say alert for more saucer reports. These are newspaper.
Yeah.
That's yours.
Well, newspapers never lie.
Well,
I don't know if you know that.
Well,
they never make fake stories.
Well,
they never talk shit about people.
The New York Times is pretty reliable. Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keene are reporters for the New York Times, and they've been studying this phenomenon. They report very credibly on it. I'll tell you how an abductee's experience is related. I attended a lecture at the Fifth Avenue Medical Institute in Manhattan with my wife a few years ago. That would be about 15 years ago. And John Mack was the lecturer. You know, he wrote the book Abduction. He was the Harvard psychiatrist who wrote Abduction. You can get that up too, Abduction, John Mack.
Yes, I've read that as well.
Yeah, and
that freaked a friend of mine out. She was a very pragmatic, non-UFO believing person, and we were working together on news radio, my friend Maura Tierney, and she came up to me and she goes like, "This book is freaking me the fuck out." And he wrote a second book as well. Didn't he die in a car accident?
John Mack,
I believe he died in a car accident.
Stepped off a curb in a small town in England, and he was struck by a car.
Yeah.
And 3 other John Macks died the same day in England.
So you think people were whacking John Max because he knew too much?
I don't know.
Let's take
Again,
them all out.
I was at this lecture, and there were 300 abductees there. That some who he'd interviewed with, some he had not, but who were there for interested to find out more about their experience. And one guy got up and said he had one arm, and I don't know whether that was related. I don't think it was related to the experience, but he said, "I'm a Wall Street broker. I'm quite well off. I have a sailboat. I was in Long Island Sound a few years ago, and a blue light hit me, and I had missing time of about 5 or 6 hours. But in it, I have filtrated memories of beings addressing me and telling me that I was powerful and influential and I could help the planet survive. And they put me back in my ship, and I woke up, and he said, "I'm waiting for them to come back. I want them to come back." And I asked the room, I got up and I said, "Of all of you who've been taken, how many of you would want to repeat the experience or have it happen again?" And about half of them said, no way they'd want to have it happen again. And half said, "Yeah, we'd like that to happen again."
Half.
Yeah. Half, yeah.
Now, I love a
So
good
Bruce signed this to me, and
anecdotal-
I'm going to give it to you. And
Oh,
it's
thank
just got
you.
great. It's got great headlines from the 50s, which was a massive time for saucers. You know that famous
Yes.
photo of the saucers over the Capitol, the glowing lights, and yeah.
See if you can find that photo, Jamie, because it is quite
Yes,
interesting.
July 1952, Washington
Do you
sightings.
think this was initiated by the detonation of the atomic bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where they decided, okay, these fucking monkeys are doing some stupid shit. We need to go down there and see what's up and see if there's imminent danger to the cosmos. Let's find out what kind of capabilities they have. Because if you listen to Lazar, or if you believe the work of Zecharia Sitchin, or any of the people that believe that human beings were engineered, that there's the reason why there's this giant leap between us and the rest of the primates on the planet is because something came down and manipulated our genetics.
Well, the movie Mission to Mars with Tim Robbins, basically it says that. Basically it shows the face on Mars, and that is one of NASA employees' favorite movies. Yeah, there they are. Yeah. 1952 UFO incident. Thank you very much.
Look at that photo. That is
Isn't
a
that
crazy
beautiful?
photo.
Come on, let's go here now,
That's crazy.
folks. Yeah, that ain't an airplane. That ain't a helicopter.
No, it's a crazy photograph, and it's from 1952. I mean, the special effects back then were incredibly crude.
No,
this was something that was reported by
thousands of people.
people.
They scrambled jets from Andrews for it and everything.
as well as the Phoenix Lights. That
The
was another
Phoenix Lights
thing.
is fascinating because the Fife Symington, the governor, said he saw them. He made fun of it with an alien.
Yeah, but he
dummy.
talked about that afterwards.
Yeah.
He was put under pressure to do so.
Yeah.
He's in a movie called, what is it? There's a documentary on Netflix. It's available that he's in. That he talks about the pressure that they put on him to make light of that incident, and he talks about his own personal experiences with seeing some sort of triangle-shaped craft that was enormous, the size of several football fields. It was flying overhead, that was completely silent, and how it freaked him out. I think
The
that was him.
the triangle and delta crafts are very, very interesting. But the Tinley Park incidents of the 80s, and with Sam Maranto as the investigator there from MUFON, these things would park over the family barbecue for about half an hour, and families in suburbs were looking up at the sky being blotted out by these things parking above them. So, I think it comes down to I don't think these beings. Lord Hill Norton said there were 23 different species visiting the planet in 23 different types of ships. I don't think they want a formal relationship with people on Earth. They want an informal, secret relationship. I think they probably have one with elements of black elements of the Air Force and the government. You know who David Sarita is?
I've heard his
David
name.
Sarita. You should have him on. He's very knowledgeable about this. His theory is that the Roswell event may have been precipitated by the Trinity explosion because there was such an interdimensional disturbance of the atoms being split and that explosion. There was that saucer there that went down in 47 may have been influenced somehow negatively by that explosion. Now, Stanton Friedman didn't buy that. I loved Stanton. He just passed away there. He was the expert on Roswell.
Yeah, I'm upset that I never got to meet him before he died.
He was so credible
an
and
interesting
so great.
guy who believed in UFOs, but believed most people were lying about them.
Really?
Yeah. He believed that there was a lot of horse shit going on, including Bob Lazar. He thought Bob Lazar was full of shit.
Again, why would Bob go out there and do that and compromise his life?
Well, let me tell you something. After talking to him for 3 hours and then having dinner with him the night before, I used to believe I had the best bullshit meter in the world, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten more honest. I didn't see anything. He's an incredibly smart guy, and he's not a guy who's like seeking out attention, and he's not profiting from this. And in fact,
just his demeanor and everything. Jeez, he's like an accountant.
He's a legitimate scientist.
Yeah.
And I've talked to him. One of the things that I engaged him with when we had dinner, we talked about science, just science in general, and we talked about all sorts of different things. And he's a scientist. He's a legit scientist. I've talked to a lot of them.
Yeah,
I know what kind of person he is.
And they just hassled him again. There, they rated his nuclear isotope.
They think he has element 115. That's what they think.
Wouldn't we all love to have that?
Yeah, that's what they think. That's some artist created that thing up there with element 115. And,
element 115, indeed. Well, if you get a little sliver of that, that would be pretty exciting. Yeah.
He talked openly about it in the 90s that he had managed to weasel some away from the Area S4. And they think that he still has it.
Yeah.
But there were some experiments that he had done that George Knapp had actually filmed that had showed some really bizarre distortions using this stuff, and then it was able to I got to remember exactly what it did that they showed, but they did some experiments with like steam or smoke or something like that, where they showed element 115 emitting some sort of
Vapor.
well, no, it was emitting some sort of a field.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
where
okay.
you literally couldn't physically touch this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
To tell Joe about how the government program OSAP was created directly because George wrote this book about a little place called Skinwalker Ranch where the government was studying this property. That happened because of his book. Some DIA guys. Well, you should tell the story of
I visited that place.
Yeah, but right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you got I think you got a little misled on it.
Tell him how the government study started. From your work. It's fascinating.
So some of it stems back to Lazar. So we did that story in the series in '89. One of the first people to call me after that was a guy I'd never heard of before named Robert Bigelow, a billionaire. He calls me up and says, I was really interested in that. I've been interested in UFOs for a long time. Can I help you? Meaning, can he help fund me? I said, I work for a TV station. I don't need any help. But he was not to be deterred. He then reached out to Lazar. They had he started meeting with him and pumping him for information. And that really amplified Bigelow's lifelong interest in it. He created something called NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Science, which he made a science advisory board of the best and the brightest in both the UFO field and the field of consciousness. So they're looking at two questions. Is there life elsewhere in the universe? Is it here? And do humans survive after death? And he assembled this board, former CIA guys, two former astronauts, men who had walked on the moon, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Dr. Hal Puthoff, physicists, psychologists, really a brilliant little think tank to take on these two topics. I was allowed to be a fly on the wall for some of it, not all of it, but some. And I told Harry Reid about it. In 1996, and he said, can I go? And so he showed up and sat in on the meetings, and he was kind of hooked. Harry Reid was the first person I told about Bob Lazar outside of our newsroom. Before we aired the stories, I'd known him since he first ran for Congress in 1982. Then he becomes Senate Majority Leader. So he had always had an interest in it, but he didn't want it to be known publicly. That does not help your reelection chances. So in 2005, we write the book about Skinwalker Ranch. NIDS, that team, bought the ranch. They were on the property for 7 or 8 years at that point and had hundreds of different incidents that they investigated. They approached it like scientists would. They looked for prosaic explanations. They looked for gravity anomalies. They looked for psychoactive plants. Could there be hallucinations caused by magic mushrooms or something? Are the witnesses lying? They investigated the background of the family that had lived there. And they found out that it could not be explained, all the range of activity there. So it was not only
what
UFO.
What kind of activity are we talking
about?
about?
Well, it starts with UFOs because that's what got their attention. The Uinta Basin in northeastern Utah has always been a UFO hotspot. Everybody who lives there basically has seen them. Balls of light, orbs, structured craft, daylight, nighttime. In 1976, a guy named Dr. Frank Salisbury wrote a book about it, the Utah UFO Display, and he took hundreds of these cases that have been collected by the locals. There was a local science teacher named Junior Hicks who, because he had taught generations of kids science in that area, when people would see UFOs, they'd call up Junior Hicks. And he went and go and investigate them. And he had hundreds and hundreds of files. He gave them over to this guy Salisbury, who wrote a book about it. And he said, these are real, they're going on. But Junior Hicks would disregard any high strangeness cases that came along with the UFOs. Anything weird, Bigfoot, ghosts, anything like that, he thought it was too incredible, and he discarded that. Bigelow buys the ranch. He hears about these stories going on this one property, flies in, meets with the rancher, and by this time, that rancher and his family had lived on the ranch for 20 months. And they were so scared that he, his wife, and his two kids were all sleeping at night on the floor in the same room because it had messed with them so badly. Their property had ghost-type activity, poltergeist kind of things, trickster activity. For example, the wife goes shopping to the grocery store. She buys all this food, comes back, puts it on the table, takes it out, puts it in the shelves, leaves the room, comes back in, all the food's back in the bag. She would take a shower in the morning, locks the door, puts a towel and a hairbrush on the cabinet, gets out of the shower, door's still locked, hairbrush and towel are gone. Dad's out in the field. He is digging a post hole, using a post hole digger, heavy piece of equipment. He stops for a second, wipes his brow, looks back, and it's gone. And they find it 2 weeks later up in a tree. They start hearing voices at night in the air, speaking a strange language. They start seeing shapes outside the window at night, big, lurking humanoid shapes, hearing heavy footsteps outside, then hearing heavy footsteps inside. Then their animals started being mutilated. Cows. The tracks would lead out into the snow and then just be gone. Calves mutilated, cut up with surgical precision. Cats wiped out, carved up. Dogs that were vaporized. Hundreds of these incidents. They would see holes in the sky, like a great big hole in the sky, and things flying in and out of it. Now, this rancher, college-educated guy, grounded, strictly religious guy, thinks the government is trying to run him off his property. So he's out there at night lurking with a gun trying to catch whatever government agents are doing this stuff. And it's not government agents. It was something else. They start seeing UFOs of all shapes and sizes. The first one they saw was they thought it was a Winnebago. This ranch is a beautiful place, and it only has one way in and one way out. They see these two lights that look like headlights down in the third homestead. How did this guy get past the house here and get down there? He must be stuck. Let's go down and help him out. The lights start coming toward he and his son. Then they go up into the sky, up over the trees, and then poof, gone. These different kinds of orbs, the white ones that were intelligently controlled, not fireflies, not bugs, blue ones that would go, they seem to touch the fear center in your brain. They'd get near them. They look like a little bigger than a softball, made out of glass with a swirling blue liquid, scared the hell out of the animals, and then it scared the hell out of the people, too. This literally drove them to their knees with fear. These red orbs that would stampede the cattle. They lost so many cattle that they began to think that they were going to go under. They had these 4 prized bulls. I know I'm jumping around, but there's a lot of stories. They had these 4 prized bulls, 2,000 pounds each, behemoths, very expensive animals because they were raising Simmental cattle. Had them in the corral, and the husband and wife, they always felt like they're being watched. He says to the wife as they're driving to town, man, if something happens to one of those bulls, we'll go under. We'll be done. They come back a half an hour later. All 4 of the bulls are gone. They jump out. They're freaking out. Where did they go? Did somebody steal them? Are they rustlers? Looking around all over the place. In this corral is a metal trailer where they used to store tools. And there's only one door into it, and it's locked with this heavy piece of wire. The door is still locked. The wire is still on there. The guy, just as a last resort, he looks into the grating on top of this trailer, and there's the 4 bulls inside. Door's still locked. They're all crammed in there. Now, you could take a forklift. You could have a team of 50 people, and they couldn't get those bulls in that trailer, but there they were. He yells to his wife, hey, honey, they're in here. And when he says that, the bulls wake up as if out of a trance, kicked the door down, and all got out. The NIDS team, which had been on the property for a couple of years at that point, fly in. They had been in Las Vegas. They fly back in. They look around. They check out the animals. The whole corral, which is made out of metal, had been magnetized. So whatever technology was used to get those bulls from the corral into that trailer left a magnetic signature. They were there on the property, the NIDS guys, for several years. Bigelow owned it for 20 years. But eventually they gave up. Whatever this thing was, this intelligence, it did not like being stalked, and it played tricks on them. And they never made the stuff public because what are you going to do? Write a paper about this? Who's going to print it? You can't make a documentary about it because they weren't there with cameras.
Is there any evidence? So, well, all this we're saying, those cattle mutilations, I guess that's some evidence, but that's only evidence of cows, and we can mutilate cows. What about all this other stuff?
Like for the first 20 months when the rancher is there, they don't have any evidence because he's not a paranormal investigator. They're not taking photos or something. They want it to go away. So they don't have any evidence of that except for what the rancher told them. But then they talk to the larger community, and the same thing has been happening to all the neighbors. The guy who lives next door had lost all these cattle as well, seized the craft. Sometimes these craft would float around. They looked like stealth fighters with Christmas lights around them, floating around silently.
Again, is there any evidence?
No, not really. I mean, So Bigelow puts up cameras all over the property. and you have them focused here where some activity had happened before, the thing moves over here. You move the cameras in focus there, it goes away. Toward the end of the study, whatever it was that was there, one of these cameras would rip to shreds. They're up on top of a telephone pole, 30, 40 feet in the air. And there's wires that are secured all the way down the telephone pole. And they noticed that one of their cameras goes out. They figure, well, there's another camera on another pole that should have a view of whatever it was that tore this up, some kind of animal or whatever. Well, whatever it was invisible. And I know it's very frustrating. It certainly was for them and for me to try to write about it, in that this thing didn't want to be caught. It wanted to demonstrate it that it was there, but it didn't want to have evidence. The calf that was mutilated was in, I know it's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
The calf that was mutilated, it was a Sunday morning. It's 10 o'clock on a quiet morning. It's daylight. The rancher and his wife are there by themselves. They're tagging newborn calves, tag their ears. And they tag this one right by the ranch house, 50 yards from their home, and they go off across the property. It's a clear day. It's unobstructed. Their dog is with them and makes a noise that points them back toward that first calf that they had tagged. And the dog indicates that something's wrong. And they see the mom cow is dragging its leg and going around in a semicircle. It's in distress. They go running back over there, and this calf had been completely stripped of flesh. Nothing left but a hide and bone, and one of the femur bones had been ripped out and thrown on the side. Well, they call in the NIDS guys. They bring in trackers. There are no tracks. There's no human tracks, no vehicle tracks, no animal tracks. The thing had been completely stripped of blood. There's not a drop of blood on the ground. It's gone. 75 pounds of meat gone. Again,
Over a time period of
30 minutes. Is there a team of commandos that comes in and does that?
where's the
Special forces?
blood go?
Yeah.
And there's evidence of this?
Yeah. It's on video.
Photographs?
Yeah, video. Yeah.
Can we see that?
Yeah.
Where is it?
I made
where that
I made
is?
a movie called Hunt for the Skinwalker. It's in there, right? Is that the only place?
Yeah, it's probably some other places. There's photos and video.
I mean, so I'm with you, man.
What's
Yeah.
the speculation about? Like, why would they do this, and why would they do the cattle mutilations? Like, what is?
Yeah.
Is there any speculation?
Some. So some of it is a demonstration. I mean, it seemed to be a demonstration to get their attention. This trickster element has been reported in other places around the world. There's no hotspot quite like Skinwalker, and I know how weird it sounds. There's no spot like that because there's no spot that's been studied to that extent. The NIDS guys were there Bigelow owned the property for 20 years. NIDS was active for 7 or 8. Then another secret study funded by the government came in under an organization called BASS. That was the money that Reed got. He got $22 million. It went to Bigelow as a contract, and they hired all these people and fanned out all over the world to try to find UFO information, but other related phenomena, things that wouldn't seem normally to be connected to UFOs, but which are. A guy from the DIA had read the book and became interested, and he asked for permission to go to the property. This guy's a double PhD, a brilliant rocket scientist who had seen it and thought there were national security implications, the hole in the sky in particular, with things coming in and out. He wondered if someone was using technology to make these things
Did they
happen.
film that hole in the sky?
No. Again, that's when the rancher is there by himself. So
Right.
he's not a UFO guy. He's not trying to document.
I understand. But is there any evidence of anything weird? Anything other than mutilated cows?
Well, let's see. The video of the camera that was torn up by something invisible. They had something that
So in the video, you can see the camera being torn apart?
you can't see anything. There's nothing. You can't see anything. You can see before it happens, it's normal, and afterward,
So I think
How much time is
Yeah.
taking place between before and after?
I can't remember. But I mean, could that be hoaxed? Yeah, if Bigelow wanted to. But again, they weren't there in the beginning at least, for NIDS, they weren't there to try to prove that aliens are visiting. They're just trying to figure out why all this weird stuff is happening in one spot.
Right.
It mixes in a lot of Native American lore that got mixed in the picture, but it's been going on in that Uinta Basin for 200 years. Why? Don't know.
I mean, our government has studied the so like, what is evidence? It's so frustrating to me too. When I was introduced to the Skinwalker thing through George, man, I'm with you. Like, what's the evidence? What's going on? The weight of evidence is when you talk to people in the area, and they all have these commonalities. Some people died of exotic cancers from burns from above where lights came down and hit them, and that's evidence. Their face is completely irradiated, and they fucking died.
So there's the cow.
That's the cow.
So you have a scientist like Dr. Colin Kelleher.
Hold on for a second. That's where they found it? Look at that.
Yeah.
Just what in the fuck can... That is so crazy. Now, did they scan the area to look for another spot where it could have been slaughtered before it was moved to this area?
Well, that's what they concluded, is it had to have been taken somewhere and slaughtered and then brought back. But
Jamie,
who does
can you make that a little larger, please? Can you just zoom in on that? Because that doesn't look very surgical to me. That looks like wolves.
Yeah, it was. There's no...
Just...
They actually did an analysis, and it was done with 2 types of metallic tools.
But look at all the jagged edges.
They said they took samples and they sent them to 2 pathology labs. Didn't tell the guys what they're looking for. You tell us what you can see. And the pathologist said that 2 instruments had been used. One was a heavy machete type instrument that had been hacked, and then there is a scalpel that had surgically removed a lot of the flesh underneath.
It looks like something killed it and then they moved it to that spot. I mean, if I had to guess. The way it's eaten, though, I mean, it looks like it was eaten.
Well, there's no teeth marks. There are metallic marks. There's no teeth mark.
Meaning they
like
found...
a sliced.
Okay.
And
so something sharp sliced it.
So I think the bigger point is this was happening on this ranch with owners prior to owners prior to owners. I got to talk to a lot of people that knew. So here's the deal. The connection of this. So George does this thing. He reports on this for 20 years. The government is now studying this ranch, right, because of deployment or because of all this weird stuff. Why is the government spending money through OSAP to study this ranch and other things? And that's where it gets really fucking interesting. What happens after with our government programs? And that's what you know.
This is before we get to that. This image, like the jagged edges around the rib cage, that's supposedly sliced. That looks like hacked. Okay.
I mean, look, it could, let's say it's people doing this, to farmers to get them out of there. Let's say it's some program. I mean, although the cattle mutilation thing, you gave me a stack of documents this big, has been studied by the FBI. It's happened all over the country.
Yeah.
No one has ever been caught, not a single person.
More than 10,000 cases.
With all the same types of cuts. I mean, this is not my expertise.
No, I've seen a lot of that. It's really weird.
There is another
really
theory.
weird, and the lack of blood is the weirdest part of it. Because what makes sense to me is that something killed that. They butchered it. They chopped all the meat off of it, and then they removed the carcass from that area and dropped it off there.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like, if I had to guess.
That's what NIDS thinks.
There's no way that it was killed right there because you're seeing fresh, clean hay underneath it everywhere. There's no blood, which doesn't make any sense at all.
I think the question is this a government program? Is this something, or is this a scare tactic? It's been happening since the 50s. Like,
It's a weird scare tactic. Click on that one below it, Jamie, the brown one with the green. Yeah, that one, please. Thank you. That's a weird one, too. Like, there's like a hole cut out. And there's a bunch of these they found all over the country, and weirdness, like organs removed. But the weirdest part about it is it's almost always there's no blood.
Yeah, I just investigated one, which I never thought I would do, but I got a call from a guy in Texas.
You got to see it physically?
Yeah, so right before lockdown, I go out and I'm like, this is so wild, I got to check this out. The guy calls me. It's a pretty freshy one at this point. Now, I'm no expert, but I went and got samples and took them to labs and this sort of thing to see if there were tools used. So here's my experience.
Did you get pictures of this?
Yeah, I filmed the whole thing.
You have it on your phone?
I'll show you after. I got it on my phone. Yeah. So I got great fucking photos. Weird
Well,
shit.
listen, man, airdrop them to me now, and we'll send them to Jamie, and we'll put it up on the screen so other people can see it.
Okay, so let me...
Yeah, after the show is not going to help us.
While you're looking, I'll tell him about one of the theories about the cattle mutilations that Dr. Colin Kelleher developed was that somebody is tracking the spread of like mad cow prions through the food supply, and that they've been doing it under the guise of UFOs, since no one would take UFOs and cattle mutilation seriously. They just do it in helicopters, and instead of just stealing these cattle, they're tracking how far these indestructible prions travel through the food supply, because it's in cattle, it's in pigs, it gets fed into chickens and things of that in feed. It's in deer. It's called chronic wasting disease in some circles. It's just weird.
Well, chronic
weird.
wasting disease that's a different prion disease than mad cow, right?
Well, it's a variation. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, I
Yeah.
think, too. So the same kinds of things in different species. It is indestructible again. So you hit a deer that's got this, and you grind it up and you feed it to pigs. The pigs get it.
Yeah.
And then it could be passed on to other species, and it shows up in different ways. Kelleher was exploring the idea, well, whether or not it might be the cause of Alzheimer's or a version of mad cow in humans.
Do you
They're all going to you right now. This is
I
a
don't see
recent.
it.
Oh, it says downloading. So,
okay.
I'm downloading them, and then
Oh,
they're
right. Are you on the Wi-Fi?
no, but it's coming through. Here you
Okay.
go. It's about to go to you. It says waiting.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Boom.
I mean, I guess this does highlight because this is my very limited amount of.
Can you send those to Jamie too? Jamie, can you
yeah,
put your
are you
airdrop on?
AirDrop, Jamie?
Sorry, should have had you do that right away. It's ready to roll. His airdrop is open.
I don't see you, bro. Hold on. There you go, young Jamie.
So this is the stuff that you physically encountered.
Okay.
You physically saw this cow, and I'm
Yes.
looking at these images right now, and we're going to show them
Sure.
in a second. And this is you said Texas.
Yeah. So
Where in Texas?
oh gosh, what was the name of it? In the Panhandle. I'm blanking. So here's the deal. Oh yeah, that's it. So I made the movie based on George's work of the same title, Hunt for the Skinwalker, right? And that movie was telling this story about how the United States government was studying this property of land because of UFOs and weird stuff. That and weird stuff included things like cattle.
Pull up this one. There's a lot of weird images, man. This the skin removed around the face,
Right. So this was
leaving the skull.
this is my first chance to see this for myself. Because last time I was on your show, it was the ones in Oregon had just happened up at that ranch. And I thought, well, okay, if I'm ever going to do it, now's the time to do it. So I go, I get this call. Now, remind you, this is a rancher. This is their livelihood. It's this huge area of land.
Right there. Stop right there.
They're a very religious community. We go out to the middle of this land, and in the middle, there's this dead cow.
No blood.
No blood. And he had seen it prior, and the reason he called me is because in my movie, you could see this special kind of slice, like a jagged slice that is common to these types of things they think are real mutilations. And he is looking at it, he's like, that's exactly like in the movie. Now, this is a straight shooter. He's a religious guy. He had to ask his pastor if he could even go on camera with me. It freaks him out. So he sees this. Now, he sees dead animals all the time.
And he saw this cow, you said, before? How
Accidentally,
long?
he was out shooting BB guns with his kid, and he's on this big part of land, and he sees this down bull, and he goes over to it, and he's looking at it, and it's unlike anything he has ever seen in all of his years before. It had surgical cuts. There is no doubt somebody cut up this animal with those classic, like the ear gone, two types of tools, like a scissor type. But by the way, I tried to cut it. It is not easy to cut. So they had sharp tools, and then there's like a very thin slice kind of cut. So I got to take it, get samples, take them to labs, and try to see what type of tools did this. How did they do this with no blood on the ground? And all the soil around it was dead. So I was like, well, why is it all dead? Is that a natural thing? So I took soil samples and took them to a lab. And again, I'm outside of my... This is weird to me.
Okay.
But I think it's a real phenomenon. Somebody is killing these animals.
Someone.
However you want to say
Right.
it. Someone is killing these animals in a highly specified technical way that has been repeated since the 50s on. Our FBI has studied it. He has shown me so many reports of these in association with discs, saucers.
Did this guy have any association with discs or saucers or anything?
No, he's just a guy that owns the
So
land.
he just found this cattle that's
Freaked.
weirdly mutilated.
Somebody killed it.
Yeah.
And he's like, is this demonic? Is this some sort of Satanist thing? And I said, I don't think so, man. This goes back in history.
Like I'm looking at the cuts specifically, they're very unimpressive.
Well,
that doesn't look like a laser did it or
No.
some
How long had it
incredibly
been out
sharp
there?
scalpel.
No, it was like a serrated. One was a serrated tool, and the
Right.
other.
That's the thing I'm saying. It's like something that we could do.
Oh, absolutely. We'd have to somehow do it though in Texas land, where the guy would shoot you in the face if you go and try to touch one of his cows. See, that's the other thing. No one's ever been caught. Never.
That's what's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's
a
frustrating too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to the ranch, the Skinwalker Ranch in the Basin, more than 24 times. I've never seen anything. I've interviewed the neighbors. I've interviewed the scientists. These are PhD level guys who had seen this stuff. A lot of times they have cameras that fail. I mean, it's, you've heard that story before, and it's very convenient that it happens just when some giant disc shows up, but it does happen, that their car batteries would die in the same spot. Whatever it was messed with them. And maybe it's humans, maybe it is human technology, but no humans were ever found to be doing this stuff. NIDS was there for all those years. They didn't want to tell anybody about it. They shared the information with me, but you can't publish it. There's no real physical proof, so they just left it there. And I had tried to do a documentary. Ended up, I talked to them into letting me write a book about it. But if you're looking for physical evidence and solid proof, they don't have it.
What's the primary are there any primary theories of why they do this to cows? Why someone's doing this to cows?
In episode 1356, a Green Beret's memory leaves Joe stunned and speechless.
This is did we didn't introduce you properly? No? Okay, that's Justin.
I think we did introduce it. It's Mike Tyson weed, ladies and gentlemen.
Mike Tyson.
I'm hanging out with these guys
Day.
because I'm a Green Beret and I got hurt, and you saw the show last night, so I'm speaking at the shows because Sturgill on his own. Well, let me back up. I got blown up in March, and I was in the hospital. Previous year, I'd come off of a deployment, had 11 months before the second one was a bit down in the dumps. Got divorced, had a dude die on the first trip, so it was kind of it was real rough to deal with. And then was listening to these dudes quite a bit, and then led into the next deployment. I was there a month. Boom, almost died pretty hard. Teammate saved me, and we had blood on the ground. I got blood on target, and then they made a hellacious movement to get me to the medevac. Long story short, I'm eating dinner in the hospital, one of the first meals, jamming out to these dudes, and I was like, "Mom, I want to meet Sturgill Simpson." And then she tried to get a hold of him. SOCOM eventually did, and he came, hung out for 2 hours. I made my friend now, General Bodette, wait 15 minutes so that we could finish talking about what we were talking about, which when you're an enlisted dude, you don't make generals wait. But I was on a lot of ketamine, so it was sweet. But then Sturgill had it on his own accord to donate to the foundation. So this little tour going on that coincides with the actual album release is donating to the Special Forces Foundation. So that helps Gold Star families, which are the families that remained of the friends that got killed on this trip. So there were 4 Green Berets and 2 EOD techs, and so that money's going to them, and that's what I care about. I'm alive. I don't have any legs below my knees for those that can't see my legs on the video anyway. And I don't have my testicles either, so that's a different set of challenges. But I don't care about getting taken care of other than the normal Army processes, but I want them to get taken care of from the foundation. So I'm grateful to have these guys as friends now. They're awesome. They're amazing musicians, but amazing people. And then I'm grateful to be here and just to push that out. So people that are coming to the shows, all that money goes to the foundation, and then people can go on the foundation's website, which is specialforcesfoundation.org. And yeah, I appreciate it.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's
man.
really, really, really cool. That's really cool that you're doing this, and thank you for coming here and telling everybody this. This is it's a great way to help out, and your music, to connect it to that. I think that's just a fucking incredible thing. It's really cool. When you were sending me the text messages telling me that you were going to the hospital, it's very touching.
It was yeah.
Yeah, you were, you could tell you were seriously moved by this. And for someone like you who truly understands the consequences of war, like the physical consequences of it in a way that none of us will understand, it's very, not just, it's brave of you to talk about this, but it's also, it's so valuable for everybody that hasn't served to understand what it really is. So thank you for that.
Well, I always say I really like combat because I was in a lot of it, relatively speaking. Bunch of guys have been in way more combat. Bunch of people have treated more casualties. I'm a medic, but I was in a fair amount. Almost got killed on the first trip a good handful of times, and then so I just don't like the war aspect when you see your friends get killed and you're stuck in a hospital bed on top of all this stuff that's, I didn't shit for a week. I pissed blood for a week. I've had tons of nights of excruciating pain. That's the life of an amputee. Or there are guys that are worse than me, so I'm just grateful for having what I have. And yeah, that's the beginning of it. Like, especially on ketamine, when you're going through all that and you're just like, I was telling like the people that took the trash out in the room, like, hey, I'm grateful for you, brother. Like, right on, brother.
What is ketamine like after a catastrophic injury like that? Does it relieve the pain? Does it just put you in another dimension?
So ketamine is an NMDA.
Pull this sucker right.
Yeah. And ketamine is an NMDA antagonist in the brain. So it essentially is a dissociative. So the way that it feels, because we learned this in class as a medic and everything, but the way that it feels is kind of, it takes your perspective and it's like, it always felt like a whirlwind if I was getting a push of it. But it's like you're starting to get your vision masked and you're still there, but you're dipping into like subconscious because you're still conscious. Because unconscious would mean that you're like, you pass out and you cannot have a gag reflex depending on how unconscious you are. So ketamine, I would close my eyes and immediately trip the most insane balls that you could imagine and open them, and I'd be back in the room and I'd be like, what the fuck? Whoa. And then a friend of mine, when I left my first rotation, he was an Air Force CCT that got blown up in the same village I had a few casualties in. He stepped on ID. He's an above the knee, some missing fingers, but when he was on ketamine, when he was awake and looking around, he'd see the walls on fire. And then there'd be like women, like white, pale skin in the corners, peeling the skin off their back. And he was like awake. And I was like, dude, that's
shit.
Like whatever. I don't know. It must be like someone's psychology when they go in, like set and setting type thing. But I was in it when I got a lot of ketamine. My legs were blown off. I'm getting worked on. I'm telling dudes how to treat me. I cut my own shirt off. And then I get the ketamine and I'm like in and out and I see these visions back and forth. And like I was convinced there are two distinct moments I was like, I'm not going to make it, and had that conversation. So, whew. And what's surreal about this right here is that you were talking to him on this show, and you guys talked about combat medics, and you were like, I just sing in key, and I was like, right on, they're talking about me, and then I got all kinds of jacked up. Makes you appreciate life. And I've gone through a huge development last year through depression, and then this year after this blast of like being grateful and like doing introspection and communicating and having empathy for other people and being a compassionate human, which General Mattis has told us, a group of us on the way back from my first trip. It's like, don't let this experience of war make you a more hateful human being because people haven't experienced it. Let it allow yourself to go through post-traumatic growth and become a better human being and treat other people like you want to be treated. And I would add on to that, which came from Tim Ferriss, treat yourself the way you treat other people too.
That's not a side of Mattis that you ever hear in the press, huh?
I suppose not.
I think that would be very valuable for people to know that he thinks that way. It's a very powerful way to view this inevitable consequences of war.
That started scraping me off the bottom to focus on that after that trip, yeah.
That ketamine shit is a weird one because a lot of people do it recreationally, and apparently they blast off and go into other dimensions and shit, and they go into K-holes. And
yeah, I never did it. I never tried it.
I knew a dude who died from it. He was really into it. He's doing it a lot.
What happened?
I don't know.
Like an infection?
I know he probably was doing a bunch of other things as well, but he was getting treated for ketamine for addiction, and then he wound up dying.
You can dose the shit out of ketamine.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't kill you.
You can give a kid 300 mgs of it, and they will fucking trip balls, but they're not going to die. It's like the opposite of all the other drugs.
I think he was doing other shit too.
Yeah.
I think the ketamine was just something he was treated for. I think he was doing a bunch of speed and stuff too. Which ketamine was originally isn't it a cat tranquilizer or something like that?
They give it to my wife's best friend's a veterinarian. She definitely is like jacking animals with ketamine on the drug.
It's increasing now in like civilian hospitals, but started as like a veterinarian drug, which, I mean, it works great. And you combine it with some other stuff.
Do you know who John Lilly is?
No, sounds
John Lilly was this scientist that he was a pioneer in interspecies communication. He did all his work with dolphins, and he was also a big acid freak. And he would take acid and try to communicate with dolphins. He would even allegedly give dolphins acid. He was a part of his long-standing program to try to get dolphins to talk to him. But one of the things he invented
why is there not a movie about this guy?
There is, Altered States.
No way.
Altered States is based a lot on John Lilly because he invented the sensory deprivation
Does
tank.
he give the dolphins acid in the movie?
No, because it just was loosely based on him, because in the movie the guy experiments with a bunch of different types of sensory deprivation tanks, and everybody knew that this guy, he was a legitimate doctor, a brilliant guy, but he was also a ketamine freak. And one thing he would do is he would take intramuscular ketamine and then get into the sensory deprivation tank.
Oh.
Yeah. That's a double whammy.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, a double whammy. So is that stuff difficult to get off of, or do you have to worry about that? Is there a withdrawal symptom?
The issue would be with the pain. Like when you have something that's controlling some sort of level of pain and then coming off of that, you usually will wean off of it.
But there's not a physical addiction issue?
I should know the answer to that definitively, but as a medic, but I haven't heard of anything where it's hard to come off of.
They had you on other stuff way harder to come off of.
Oh yeah, I was on methadone.
Oof.
And Sturgill's friend Shooter and Duff McKagan came to the hospital, and Duff was like, methadone is worse than heroin, because those GNR guys were rocking it in the 80s.
Right.
But that was one week I dropped down 20 mgs instead of the 10. And it was like being a junkie, for 9 hours. I was just rubbing my legs, because they're just lit up with nerve pain. It feels like there's daggers in your leg or some sort of electrocution. But you look like on a movie with someone cracked out or something. I was just rubbing my shit.
We used to see these guys who would come into the pool hall when I used to play pool in White Plains. They would come in. There was a methadone clinic down the street, and they were all heroin people. And my friend Johnny B would call them methadonians, because they would come in. They all had this sort of dull shuffle to them. They were all slowed down, and I could never understand it. It was I was like, is this a culturally did someone agree? Did we make some sort of agreement? This drug's okay. It's got some stamp of approval. So we're accepting that they have to get methadone every day, but they can't get heroin anymore. Why don't we just give them heroin? How much different is the methadone? Does the methadone get them high?
Well, it's synthesized, so it's easier to control.
But does it get them high?
I didn't have any effect.
After a while, no, it's just fighting off the physiology.
Yeah.
So it just fights the physiology of...
They're not you'll never get high the first time you spike. Or
potent narcotic.
Yeah.
For the adverse effects.
But don't people have the best effects with Ibogaine and things like that when it comes to getting off of opiates?
For getting kicking opiates, yeah. I mean, if you want to go through that, I would say, that would probably be your best bet for a quick solution, if that's what you mean.
But methadone's it is actually bad for you, isn't it?
Yes.
It fucks your. I didn't sleep. I didn't have deep sleep for 4 months. And I'd get in bed at 9, not fall asleep till 3 in the morning.
That fucks with everything, too.
Yeah. It's a pretty shitty year.
Damn. And how long did it take to get you off of the methadone?
I mean, once you're off of it, the doctors were saying that it stays in your adipose tissue, which is your fat, for 2 or 3 weeks. Because I'd have random nights when I was off of it and just get lit up with nerve pain and getting hit with a hammer on my toes. So probably like 6 weeks of weaning that, and then I weaned another drug, Lyrica.
I mean, for you, it had to feel. I mean, because you were there at Walter Reed the whole time, you had to feel frustrated. But for somebody like Mike, the first time I came to see you, it was only a month after the blast?
At most, yeah.
So he was still in a lot of, I mean, more pain than I could even comprehend somebody being in, you know, from nerve pain for how many surgeries on each leg?
It's close to 30 surgeries total, which
yeah,
is a lot. But there's
had staples in
more.
your back too.
Yeah,
were they taken? I mean, you could describe it. I was just like, how can anybody, you know? And then he was still, as he said the first time we met, he was high as giraffe balls on ketamine. But like, I was profoundly impressed by even then, like how clear-headed and articulate, and I was obviously, this guy's obviously brilliant. You know what I mean? Like you could just, through the fog and awareness of everything going on in the room, despite the pain, he was trying to pretend like he wasn't in. And then that place was full of guys like him. And then when I went back, it's like all new faces, you know, these people. But then when I went back, the second time I went to see him was there for a couple of days, and it was like just in a matter of short time, it was leaps and bounds. He's in the gym on one leg, like fucking busting out 20 pull-ups and everything, you know. It's just kind of like, there's got to be something anything you can do to help in whatever way. And these guys, since I've known him, I've never once ever heard him ask for anything. His only concerns were like for the families of the guys that didn't make it, you know. So it's just like really around an album release, if I'm going to have a bunch of attention on me, I thought it would be a good opportunity to put attention on what other people can do to help these guys and their families, because they're, you know, the sacrifices is, especially sitting in these rooms and looking at these dudes, man, you can't, you know, what do you call that?
Yeah. Well, I want to help. So after the show, let's figure out what we can do to jump in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to help. So help with the podcast, help with some comedy shows, maybe, do just whatever we could do.
I appreciate that.
Listen, I'm blown away by all this. As much as I think all these people are listening and watching, this is it's beautiful that you're doing this, man. And I think that, you know, I mean, that's inspiring me to do something. I think it's probably inspiring a bunch of other people, and that's those things that people talk about. It's one thing that you might experience or hear in life that sort of changes your worldview and moves you in a better direction. Like this could be one of those things, you know.
Well,
you're a good man.
I'm not fucking anything, man.
I'm just a dude.
Just a dude.
Well, you're just an awesome dude. All you guys, it's cool. I'm very happy that you're bringing awareness to this. I'm real happy that you're doing that. It makes me feel great.
And it's, you know, like Justin said, the war side of it is the tragedy, I guess. So it's not like, you know, right or left. It's just like this is the reality of it, and people are making these sacrifices for you. And when they come home, what do we do for them? You know,
it's a hard thought for people to accept that war is inevitable. It's a hard thought, and it doesn't seem like it's inevitable because it's not inevitable in this room. I mean, if we were the last people on Earth and there was a bunch of food and places to sleep, I think we'd probably not kill each other. We probably wouldn't go to war, right? It's like, what is the number where you go to war? Is it 1 million? Is it 2 million? Is it separated by oceans? Is it just mountains or boundaries? But the fact that no one thinks that war can be solved, like no one that I know thinks that in our lifetime there'll be no war. I mean, there's never been a period where someone on Earth that's human hasn't been going to war with each other. It's a horrible truth of being a person, and nobody knows it the way you do. So for you to come on and tell your story the way you just did, I appreciate the fuck out of that, man. And
I would just want people, if they hear that and it moves them, it's more of like just be grateful on a regular basis for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, Steven Pinker was on your show. I ended up FaceTiming with him as a result of all this. But like he has that book about basically the Enlightenment worked, and we still have war, and then there are people still fighting it. But overall, the world is continuing to improve and like steadily getting better, and fewer people are dying from genocide and war. But it still exists. So I would want the respect for war if someone is wanting to go to war. You know, if someone is going to be a commander in chief, and that's a heavy thing to like toss back and forth.
Yeah, extremely.
It means that I may never have kids because I don't have my balls. You know, like that. There's sacrifice. Like and I'm the one that lived, and I didn't have any kids, but like my friends have 4 girls. My other friend has 3 kids. So like if you're going to move the chess piece to war, then we need to understand the implications of what that means and try to do everything in political power and state strategy to avoid overt war, because
especially
nasty.
With a near peer.
You mean
that's
Russia?
Yeah,
or
Russia.
Near peer war would be the worst thing. You know, that's World War III.
Mutually assured destruction is the strangest thing on earth. That we all have enough weapons pointed at each other to literally nuke every fucking man, woman, and child off the face of the earth many times over, and that's what keeps us from using them. But yet we still have them, and we still have them pointed at each other. I mean, remember when you were kids and we were worried about Russia? Do you remember that shit?
Yeah.
I'm older. I'm
now
older than
I
you guys.
have kids, and I'm worried about people walking into Target with a suicide vest. You know?
Yeah.
When's that coming?
Right. Yeah, you could. All of it.
Because Europe's been dealing with that shit for decades. You know, we really haven't tasted that yet. Like on a widespread